Kind of a hard time to be a Star Wars fan. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Big Chetty, and I'm a little under the weather, and I haven't made a video in about 12 or 13 days. I'm trying to post a video, a long form video like this, or a review at least once a week. We're trying very hard to grow the channel. I'm almost at 1K, and I'm almost monetized. I can't believe it. What a journey it's been. So if you're seeing this video, you're a fan of Star Wars, make sure you leave it a like, comment, and subscribe. Share it to your friends. We are so close. And thank you so much, guys, for all the love and support. So, to jump right into the video today, we're talking Star Wars. And of course, we're talking The Mandalorian because today we got the first official full length trailer for the Mandalorian movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is pretty much going to be the finale, as far as we know, the finale of the TV series. They had 3 seasons, and now we're capping it off with a movie in theaters, which I will cover when the movie comes out. I am going to see it. My thoughts on the trailer are, yeah, I'm kind of excited to see it, but as a Star Wars fan in the year of our Lord 2026, I'm not as excited as I was a few years ago. And I'm simply not as excited as I would have been a few years ago for a variety of reasons. And I would love to get into every single detail on why that is, but it would be a 3-hour video. And I am going to cover more Star Wars content as I move forward and sort of maybe, actually, you know what, maybe even a tier list. I thought about doing a tier list. I think that'd be kind of cool. So Star Wars fans could see where I sit with at least the Star Wars movies and TV shows. Um, my thinks and thoughts on that because I have some pretty based opinions, but I have a couple that would maybe upset the apple cart a little bit, worth a discussion. I don't know, we'll see. But if I had to sum up all of my gripes and grievances with Star Wars as a franchise, especially since Disney has been at the helm, it's that it is very inconsistent. Doesn't matter who's in charge, what project it is, there is massive amounts of inconsistency across everything. To give you a better idea of what I'm talking about, let's take a look at Star Wars Clone Wars Season 7. Great season. Wrapped it up into a nice bow, introducing some new and fun ideas and really some powerful moments, I thought. And especially when we really didn't get a end to the show. Season 6 ends pretty abruptly. I can't remember why. It might have been because they bought it or the show got canceled for some reason. But we got a season 7. We got a return season 2, a fan favorite show, and season 7 is the best season of that show. But then, of course, we've got the infamous Disney trilogy, 7, 8, 9, which I am not a lover of those movies. I loathe them with seething rage as much as a overweight neckbeard on the internet can. I cannot stand those movies. They are horrible to me. Sorry. And then you have things like Rogue One, which were fantastic. The first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, excellent Star Wars content. But then you've also got The Acolyte and a good chunk of the Obi-Wan show, and whatever the Book of Boba Fett Mandalorian season 2.5 was. It's a mess. So to get back on track with this new Mandalorian trailer, there wasn't really anything in it that jumped out at me that said I need to go see that. As far as interesting things, I think the fighting Hutt is, if that's supposed to be Jabba the Hutt's son or some sort of relative of the Hutt clan. I'm not exactly sure what Hutt that is. But sort of them fighting in the gladiatorial ring, maybe even a reference or sort of an allusion to the Jango Fett game. If you guys remember that, the PS2 bounty hunter game where you start fighting that weird sort of, I can't remember I believe it's called a rake, RAAK. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but point being, it might be a sort of an allusion or reference to that, maybe borrowing from that license a little bit. We also saw what looked like to me is that Mando was down in some sort of pit with a horrible, awful snake creature, which perhaps could be just another Hutt palace. I don't think it's Jabba the Hutt's palace because that's where Boba is. I don't know why Boba would throw him in a snake pit. Plus, I think he's got the Rancors down there anyway, so perhaps that's just a part of being a Hutt, is having some sort of palace or castle and having a horrible, awful creature in the basement to swallow you and gobble you. And I'm curious to find out as why Mando would be back on Hoth, or what we can perceive is Hoth. We see a lot of sort of the snow planet or snowy Arctic tundra area. It's not Canada. Stop before you make the joke. No, it's not Canada. Come on. We saw snowtroopers, AT-ATs, so that is very reminiscent of Hoth from episode 5, but it could be another snow planet. I also have a hunch maybe it's Renvar, which we've never seen in live action before, so I think that'd be pretty cool because Renvar is I think, a pretty cool planet in the Star Wars lore. But why Mando would be there on an Imperial controlled Hoth many years after the Battle of Hoth, I'm not sure. That to me is tickling the lore brain, and I want to know why. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to see what's going on, but it's been a few years since we saw the last season. I think it's actually been 3+ years since the end of season 2, and whatever the little part of Boba Fett was. So it's been a long time, and I think it may be suffering again from maybe a little bit of franchise fatigue, mainly because a lot of the stuff we've seen hasn't been very good. I would argue it's more the consistency issue, which I mentioned earlier, but I think it's a little bit of the Stranger Things problem where it's like, or I guess sort of just a show on a streaming platform issue, a modern problem where, you have a very successful show, it's going very well. They order 8 to 10, 12 episodes, which is okay. But then they don't have a season 2 ready, they don't, and it takes a year or two to get season 2 going. And I get it. These things are expensive, and I'm an actor myself. I'm very familiar with how being on set works. Uh, like for example, if I have a call time at 9 a.m., that means I got to be there at 8, and if the wrap time is 6, probably means you're not getting out till 8 or 9. That's just how things go. You'd be surprised at how fast filming eats up your time. So these things are very expensive and time consuming, but at the same time, you can't be really shocked with us when it's like, oh yeah, Mando movie's coming out. I haven't thought about Mandalorian in a really long time. My biggest hope and dream for the show is that we really stray away from the 7, 8, and 9 stuff, because there was a little hint and tidbit of that in Mandalorian season 2, that there is some sort of build up to an explanation of how somehow Palpatine returned, which is just awful. So basically, my expectations are low, and I hope I'm wrong. Blow me out of the water. But before I go, I need to talk about some more Star Wars news that I had missed a couple weeks ago, mainly because I was very busy on set filming the promo for Fallout, which you haven't seen yet. It was really cool. I got to film a promo for Fallout, my other favorite sci-fi fantasy series. There was a hypnotist, it was the whole thing. It's on Amazon Prime. Super, super cool. I loved it. Thank you so much for that opportunity, guys. It was great. But the other Star Wars news that I missed was that the Darth Maul series finally got announced and shown off. Darth Maul Shadow Lord. And I'm a little more excited for that than I am Mando movie or Mando season 4, whatever you want to call it. I do think there is a consistency issue in Star Wars as well, let alone the content and the movies and shows we get, but just with the actual writing and how many characters seem to avoid death or get essentially resurrected for story purposes, for cool factor, for both, for whatever. It seems like people just don't end in Star Wars lately, and that's for me really frustrating. And I can kind of see how some people may say the same thing about Darth Maul. As far as my knowledge goes, I believe Darth Maul was the first character to cheat death or be resurrected after what many would call a more than adequate bifurcation, if you will. He was split in twain on Naboo, tumbled down a big old hole like a lot of characters do, and well, he survived that. So, I mean, this could be the reason why there is no railings in Star Wars, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you fall hundreds of meters to your untimely doom, because you'll just get resurrected by X or by cloning or by whatever. So that's why there's no railing. It doesn't matter, because you'll just come back, dude. Insurance in the Star Wars world is incredibly cheap. $1 a day. One galactic credit a day, dude. Super cheap. But of all the characters who have cheated their demise, who have gone on past their means where they were supposed to end in a script page, I think Darth Maul deserves his victories. He deserves more, and I'm actually involved with what the character was in the Clone Wars series. I'd argue he was some of the best episodes of that show, and especially training his younger brother, Savage Opress. Um, and his arc has been much more interesting than just insidious devil guy with double bladed lightsaber in that one Star Wars movie from 1999. So the idea of this Sith Lord or Sith apprentice, if you will, who escaped the perils of doom and on his pure hatred for a Jedi that he didn't even know his name, and it was Kenobi, and he spends his hatred trying to track this Jedi down and find his old master, and because he knows a big part of Palpatine's plan, and why he doesn't reveal Palpatine's plan to the Jedi. You know why? I mean, he hates Kenobi, but maybe he could have worked something out with the Jedi before the uh before I said before the bombs fell. I'm still thinking of Fallout. Before Order 66, and why didn't he rat out Palpatine? Because he would have known a lot. Maybe he didn't know everything, but he would have known about his double life. He would have known that he was a senator at the time, and not chancellor yet, but senator then. Blah. But he would have known after he would have been Chancellor Palpatine, and why he didn't track down his master during the time of the Empire. Maybe that's what he's doing here. I don't know, but clearly still looking for Kenobi, because we did get an official end to Maul in Rebels, and I think it's a very poetic ending. I love it. That sort of last samurai draw in the desert on Tatooine, I think, is beautiful. And it's like, is he the chosen one? He will avenge us. And it's like, damn, it ends where it started, man. That's crazy. Okay, wow. Because ultimately, yeah, Kenobi, Maul, all these people, Sith, Jedi, you could argue everyone in the galaxy were just pawns in Palpatine's evil scheme. So I think Maul is a very tormented character. I think he's a very interesting character. I don't agree with who was it? The guy that plays Kanan Jarrus, Fred from Scooby Doo. I can't think of his name right now. Uh, he says that Maul is Sisyphus, which is the Greek character from Legends that is forbidden to push a boulder uphill forever, and every time he gets to the top, it rolls back down. I don't agree with that. I disagree with that completely. That you could argue that's a lot of people in Star Wars, but that makes more sense for Palpatine in my mind than Maul. But okay, uh, I disagree with that completely. So I do think there is some interesting ideas that they can play with here, and I think there is a lot more to see of Maul. I think the idea of a former Sith Lord still seething with rage, but now with focus, now that he's seen the plan come to fruition. He's on his own, but in this world where there aren't a lot of there's next to no Jedi to stop him. Sort of organizing his own criminal empire, his own cartel, if you will. I think the Crimson Dawn, I believe that's what it's called. He's actually the head of the Crimson Dawn. Makes sense. He's red, Crimson Dawn, red lightsaber. I don't know, something there, but really interesting idea how that's going to fold into Kira from the Han Solo movie. I'm sure she'll make an appearance. It also looks like, is it Darth Talon? I think is the Twi'lek of Legends. There's a Twi'lek from Legends that eventually, I don't know if she paints herself to look like him or like gets tattoos to look like him. I don't think she's originally a red Twi'lek with those markings or something like that. I'm not too familiar with that side of the Legends lore, but point is we might get a Darth Talon sort of thing, and that's pretty cool. So I think there's a lot to play with here, a lot of interesting stuff. How that's going to fit in between here and how we see him in Rebels, I don't know, because why would he be sort of that old hermit in Rebels? I don't know. I don't exactly love that transition, because I feel like I need to see that transition. That's a big problem with Luke Skywalker for me in Episode 8. It's like, okay, if Luke Skywalker is this old, dried up, soggy ass hermit, fine, but you got to show me how he got there. I don't want to read 7 books, an article, and then a wiki page and why he got. You got to show me why he got there, especially Luke Skywalker. Come on. So that I'm a little worried about, and I think the gripe about how every Star Wars story we get is between Episode 3 and 4. I get it. I think that's a fair complaint, a fair criticism. How every sort of B story we get, or every sort of fill in the blank story we get, is between 3 and 4, because, well, 3 and 4 are two of the most important movies in the saga. 1 through 6, the movies that matter. You know, it was a big regime change, if you will. So it makes sense a lot of the stories take place there. But it would be nice to see more stories take place between 1 and 2, maybe right before 1. Between 5 and 6, Shadows of the Empire. I read that book last year. It was very good. So I get the criticisms, and I'm kind of on board with that. And lastly, before I go, because I'm getting sicker by the minute, and it's time for some more medicine. Um, this cold's lasted so long. God, it's been horrible. I wanted to talk about Dave Filoni taking over. And this, again, goes back to my other point that I've probably reiterated 3 or 4 times now, and the consistency issues in Star Wars across the board. I'm happy Dave Filoni is stepping in. I'm just not convinced the consistency issues are going to stop. I think the consistency issues are the number one problem with Star Wars as a whole right now, and I don't think that's going to stop with him. I do think he's the right man for the job. Absolutely. He's had some great ideas, and he's had some amazing content be made from and for Star Wars. He is absolutely the right guy for the job. Hey, I couldn't. Who else could do a better job right now? I don't know. But he's also had a fair deal of his stinkers, in my opinion. Without Dave Filoni, we wouldn't have the first couple seasons of The Mandalorian. Of course, Jon Favreau had a big hand in that too, and I think he's fantastic. Maybe they should work together on everything. There would be no Ahsoka. Ahsoka started out as a hated character, mind you, because that first Clone Wars movie from like what, 08 or 09, it's awful. That movie's god awful. But Ahsoka went from one of the most hated characters in the IP to now one of the most beloved. I love Ahsoka. I think she's a fantastic character, and I think that is the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, totally. I absolutely believe that. Yes. And like we got to see Darth Bane the first time outside of the books and the lore. We got to see a visual appearance of Darth Bane. It was a sort of hallucination of Yoda, but still, the point is we got to see a lot of cool stuff from Dave Filoni, man. That's awesome. But then there's also a handful of like, dude, what are you doing? I can't think of their names at the top of my head, but those 2 twin sisters, the Latina sisters, from a couple episodes, I think in the Clone Wars, and then in the Bad Batch, and then maybe season 7. I don't know where they're from. Ahsoka met up with them, I think, in the end of season 7 or something like that. I can't exactly remember. They've been in a few different series, but like, they're just not fun characters. I don't like them. The one sister dumping the spice from the pot, like, just awful character. So like, get him out of here. Can we go to something more interesting, please? There's that arc in the Clone Wars. I think it was a couple episodes where I can't even remember what planet where they go to because I've tried to forget it so much. But Anakin and Obi-Wan, I think Ahsoka end up on this planet or a moon or something like that, where it's like the son, the father, and the mother. It's like the dark side, the light side, and Anakin goes evil for a bit, and it's like foreshadowing what he became. It's just so not like this. Like, you know, it's hard enough to fit Ahsoka into the lore because she is officially part of the lore now. And at first it was hard for a lot of people to accept that. But you know what? It's like, okay, we can stretch our disbelief a little bit to fit her in there. Sure, it makes sense. And I feel like they've written her absence from the movies well into the show. And it makes a lot of sense. But like stuff like that's just ridiculous. So again, consistency, it's a big issue for me. But I'm going to stop yapping. I've been yapping for too long. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think down below. The Star Wars fans, I want to hear what you guys think. And I'll be doing my best to cover the Darth Maul series and the Mando movie when it comes out. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Let me know if you agree with me. I will see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye, guys.